So I think we all remember back, it seems like so long ago, and maybe back in November, it's a couple of months ago anyway, you may remember Marwah initially suspended from caucus in the Liberal Party, provincially stripped of her duties, and then a couple of weeks later, December 2nd, after that suspension, officially expelled for what they cited was a lack of loyalty, and this all had to do with someone in her entourage, her chief of staff, who she let go, and then Pablo Rodriguez, who was going to be the leader. It's a long story. We don't have to go through it. I'm sure most of you remember it. But the part of the story that struck me as odd is, first of all, we did not hear from Marwah, and still officially I don't think have heard from Marwah, but we didn't hear from Greg Kelley. Greg Kelley, an MNA, he's been on the show many times, and it went just quiet all around. And I think a lot of us were trying to understand what was going on and why we weren't here for Greg Kelley. And yes, obviously, when you're married to someone else in politics and they're going through something like this, you can understand that to a point. Well, I'm happy to say that Greg Kelley, MNA from the West Island Jacques-Cartier riding, is on the line with us now. Greg, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it.
No problem, Aaron. I'm happy to be on the air with you.
So I don't even really know where to begin, but maybe the first thing I want to ask is, how are you doing?
So, I'll be, upfront with your listeners. Throughout most of my life, I've had, ups and downs with my mental health. I'm not asking for anyone to, have tons of pity for me. I have a lot of things in my life to be blessed for and be fortunate for, but this is something that I've just dealt with since I was, in university. Anxiety, depression comes back and goes. So, of course, when I was faced with this, situation that sort of came out of nowhere and just living through that turbulent storm, it was really tough. And I knew I had to go in and check with, a psychologist that I have and my family doctor, because I just felt like I was not feeling well anymore in that sense. But after lots of years where I've had to deal with this, I've sort of come to learn how to manage it, and, do sort of the wellness checks to make sure that I can get my health back to where it needs to be. And so again, that's one of the things I wanted to pass a message for anyone out there, whoever feels like they're in a moment where they need to go consult and talk to somebody. The answer is yes, you do. And there's nothing wrong with that either, particularly to men who don't like to talk about this subject. So, but just, back to your question, I'm doing better. And of course, we're not out of the storm yet. There's still a lawsuit against my wife and my family, and a lot of work in front of us as a Liberal Party. So that's kind of where I'm at in my life, Aaron. I'm very grateful to have lots of blessings, but at the same time, our health can be pretty fragile, and it's something that I just will always, probably for the rest of my life, have to keep an eye on, and that's just the way it is.
Well, I'm sure a lot of people appreciate your honesty. I think for a lot of people that means a great deal. For other people going through something like this now, I can't imagine in your particular case, you mentioned just now about your family, and then you mentioned about your job. Your job is as a Liberal MNA. Mm-hmm. To have to live both of those things right now at the same time with someone who, for a lot of people may have been the person within this Liberal Party who I thought perhaps might be, I don't want to use the word favorite, but one of the more respected people in that party. And then to have that kind of, taken away from you, not an easy thing for, obviously, Marwah to go through, and clearly not an easy thing for you to go through. How difficult was it to square that circle?
I mean, for sure. And, Marwah is a very popular figure in Quebec. She's very well known. And to see what she was going through, and she's a tough cookie, and, she got right into her mode of, well, she has to go speak to lawyers, and, she has to figure that side out. And then, of course, everyone, kind of saw the following, what preceded, came after that. Yeah. Of course, there was a lot of other stories and elements that came out, learning that she kind of got thrown out of the party on radio. Literally, she heard that, and, I saw it on the television. Things like that are extremely hard to digest and to take in. So it was hard, but, my priority was just family at that point in time. Of course, make sure to take care of myself. Like, it's hard. How do we manage all this stress and this chaos that's going on? But at the same time, we have two little boys at home, and anyone out there who's a parent with little kids, they know that they feed off the energy of their parents. So you're doing your best to almost try and hide what you're feeling and your emotions to, take care of them, but they know that we weren't necessarily doing well in that point, that we were in the middle of and in a stressful storm. So that was all tough, but at the same time, Aaron, we had so much love and support from family and friends, but also from the community. I mean, we would go out and go to the Metro, go grocery store. I did a little food drive at Victor Rose Cafe just before Christmas, and the people just came and said, Greg, we support you guys. We're in your corner, and we believe in you guys. And Marwah is a person of integrity, and she's very ethical. So easy to stand and be in her corner, but for sure some difficult moments as we're going through this storm. And every day it's in the media, it's in the newspapers. It's not something that's enjoyable. It's not a fun side of politics. And I don't really wish it upon anyone.
Did you try to avoid seeing this on TV or reading it in newspapers? I mean, at some point, was it just too much?
Pretty hard to turn it off because you also kind of, you needed to know what was going on as well. So it was pretty hard to completely tune it out. I'll put it that way. But I did also do my best not to read the news as much as I could, or social media, whatever it is. But it was pretty much impossible to avoid.
Can I go back to something I think you said a minute or so ago, which is you found out about this, about Marwah, and she found out through the media? You weren't even told? The party did not let you know this first?
When she was actually excluded from caucus, not told beforehand, and we saw that, I learned about it on the television, the radio.
Wow.
So that was, again, pretty tough, but, on my end, definitely, I'm ready to turn the page, Aaron, and I know everyone out there listening they've heard a lot about this story, and there's another thing I heard too is that, Greg, we want you to get back to work. We're worried about the rise of the PQ. We're worried about, we got to beat off the CAC, make sure that they're defeated in the next election. So that also kept me in, perspective too, is that the community was really saying, Greg, you're doing a good job, keep going at it. We understand you're going through a difficult time. And sometimes in politics, there's just rough moments like this that are, you kind of, you don't ever expect it, but when it happens, you just try to ride out the storm as best as you humanly possibly can.
Did you have to have that conversation with Marwah at some point? So here is someone who's been shunned by the party. You're still sitting as a Liberal MNA. I think I heard us, on Jason's newscast mention that there was a part, I guess, in all of this where you thought maybe I should quit. Did you guys have that discussion together? And what did Marwah say to you about, going back or not?
I was really not trying to burden her with anything on that level. And, I was just sort of in my head as thinking, am I going to have to quit? Am I going to have to, is that what I should do? Sometimes I was so frustrated. I felt like that's the only option, but I also knew exactly what my constituents had told me, as I told you, I was going out in the community saying, Greg, you're a good Liberal, proud Liberal. We want you to keep, sticking with it. This storm will pass. We didn't, in that moment, we were sort of never really thought too much. We were just more in the mode of how do we get through this cycle here? What's going to happen? And then, it all resolved. I don't want to use the word resolved itself, but ended in a certain sense when the former leader of the Liberal Party, Pablo Rodriguez, decided to step down. And then it sort of responded to some of my questions, but I also thought there was a possibility I would have to come back with all this. So a lot of uncertainty in that time. I think that was the biggest thing, is that you didn't really know how anything was going to end up. And we had discussions at home, but mostly I was just letting Marwah focusing. There was a lot going on the legal side that she had to take care of, and I was just really focusing, taking care of her and taking care of the family.
Has anything progressed on the legal side, if I can ask, or is this still kind of where you no man's land here?
I can't really speak about any of that, lawsuit before family investigation, so it's best I just don't comment on that at this point in time.
Can I ask as well, for people who don't know, your dad, of course, a provincial politician as well, did you speak to him? Did you confide in him? What did he tell you?
I mean, if anything, it was more when I would go see my dad. He said, do you want to talk about anything other than politics? And how are the Habs doing? So we actually spoke more about that than anything. I had a great visit from my Uncle David, who was from Toronto, and he came here down to visit from friends, a little work. And he just invited me over to my parents' place for coffee. He said, Greg, we're not even going to mention what's going on with you. Let's just talk about everything else under the sun. So there was a little of that going on, too, that it was people around me were saying, Greg, I know you need to think about other things, so let's chat about other things. And that it actually really helped more than anything else.
I guess just the last thing I'll ask is with respect to what's gone on with the party. So, yes, Pablo is gone. There's a new leader in Charles Milliard. We'll assume he's going to be the new leader. Has the party reached out to you to say, please come back? We want to have you back. And we know it's a new beginning, if you will.
Well, I mean, for sure. I mean, in terms of, I always had conversations throughout this with Marc Tanguay when he was the whip, and then he became the leader again. So, I mean, I knew I had my place around the caucus table. I had taken a professional pause, stop from work, just to take care of my mental health and all that, and I communicated that with the team and the ethics commissioner. So there was, I was off work for, the end of November and a bit of December. I always knew that there was a place for me around the caucus table. For with regards to Marwah, that's something that the party made clear that the next, leader, will be the one who, decides and works on that. So for the moment, I respect that decision, and I will let the next leader, sort that all out. And, as I've mentioned in the media, I obviously want Marwah to come back and be part of caucus. I mean, as her husband, it's a natural position for sure, but obviously because she's such an ethical and honest person, I really, hope that happens. So one thing at a time.
I would just simply ask, you're ready now for the fight? There's a provincial election coming up in October. You're back. You're raring to go. Is that fair to say?
It's definitely fair to say. I do my best, Aaron. As I live in my riding. I see people wherever I go, and they keep telling me about this, the state of the healthcare system. There are struggles with the cost of living, access to housing. I mean, we all know the list, but it still is really front and center, particularly the healthcare file. People are extremely worried after Bill 2. What impacts have we left to the system? What's left of the public system? How can we make improvements quickly? So I'm ready and eager to go on those fronts, help contribute to my caucus, and of course stand up for my community whenever I have to. So I'm eager. I'm chomping at the bit. And the riding association I have, the volunteers out in Jacques-Cartier are putting our plans together for the next campaign. So I'm eager and ready to go. And I know we have a lot of work in front of us.
Listen, I can't thank you enough for coming on. I know it's not easy to talk about stuff like, we did at the beginning. I'm glad you are feeling better. I'm glad you're encouraged about going back, and that fighting spirit is still there. So, good on you, I guess we can say, and I wish you nothing but the best. And look, the truth of the matter is, I've spoken to Marwah. She's been on the show many times. Please, on behalf, because I know she's not, talking necessarily publicly, please send her my best and wish her, all the best as well, because I think, as you said before, as I said as well, people like her, people respected her, she was ethical, she was respected in the community, respected as a politician, and I think people miss her, and I want her to know that, so please send her our best as well.
Much appreciated, Aaron, and I can just for everyone out there, she'll be back at the National Assembly in the coming weeks, representing Saint Laurent, so I'm sure you'll hear from her in the near future.
Look forward to it. Greg, thank you so much.
No problem.
Take good care. Greg Kelley, MNA. There you go. That's what he's been through for the past little while with his wife, Marwah Risky.
I'm Luke Wilson. Join me each week for Film Never Lies. Since retiring from the NFL, I've had a lot on my mind, and now I've got my own show. So if you're tired of lazy takes, if you want honest conversations, join us each week. Film Never Lies, available on all TSN platforms and the iHeartRadio app.